The world's
That was the
changed.
opening trailer.
Our marketing's crap, and this is what we're going to do. But could you share a bit of background for the...
Yeah, look, I've been in the business of buying, building, selling businesses now for almost 20 years, and I think it was about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, coming up on 3 years, I think in May next year. We just realised that our marketing, and I'm a marketer, but I just realised our marketing was sucking. We weren't getting penetration, we weren't breaking through like we used to. The old direct response call to action environment just wasn't working, and so we basically embarked on a mission which became the social experiment, which we documented, to transition from being a traditional marketing business to being a social media marketing business. And we already had a very successful business already. We're very blessed through a lot of hard work. But since the launch of the social experiment, I think we've had almost 750 million video views, and the clock's still ticking. And most of that, by the way, is organic. So it's been really well received.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been following your journey closely. And what I've really done is I've taken what you're doing and just isolated LinkedIn and focus on LinkedIn video, and there's a lot of organic traffic at the moment, so thank you for...
No, you're welcome, you're doing very well.
Yeah, thank you. So along the way, there must have been some challenges.
Lots of challenges.
Yeah.
That's business, right?
I don't think there's anyone that's gone, no, actually, everything's...
It was easy.
Well.
No, it was quite easy. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner.
So what was one of the ones that, happened since you started this social media experiment?
Look, I think there's a couple that popped to mind, but probably the most challenging one was actually the documentation of the breakdown of my marriage, because we were all in on the project where we were basically filming everything. So we were, in essence, the social experiment was about creating a reality TV style web documentary where we documented, from the moment I walked in the morning till the moment I left in the evening. I had a camera on me 24/7, and even on sometimes in the evenings and weekends and touring and everything else. And my wife worked with me in the business, and it was during that early stage of the social experiment our relationship actually started to break down. So that was probably one of the more challenging things, because one of the things that I like about the social experiment, and I like about doing what I do with the team that I have, is it creates an enormous level of transparency. And I love authenticity. I'm very much passionate about just being a real and genuine version of yourself. And in that environment, it really just made me have to show up as the most authentic version of myself, regardless of what was going on, breakdown and all. And it was quite a challenge. And to reflect back on it when I see the episodes in retrospect, it's quite a challenging thing to watch your own marriage breakdown play out on, I guess you could say, almost like on a TV screen.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And,
you're welcome.
And what would be one of the traits that you attribute to your success as an entrepreneur?
Look, I think there's many variables that create many characteristics, many character traits that are required, but probably my strongest trait is my resilience. I've got really strong grit. And what that means is I have the ability, I'm no different to anyone else. I have just as many challenges, if not more than most people. But what I have is the ability to sit in my problems and actually find clarity in them and be able to suffer without experience pain without suffering. Because business is very painful, life is very painful, and I think that's the challenge for most people, is they pursue something that they love in the form of business, but then when it gets difficult, they experience pain, in the form of the letdown or disappointment, but they allow that pain to turn into suffering. And then when you start to suffer, that's when life becomes heavy, that's when life becomes hard. And for me, I won't say that I was born this way, but I've certainly spent a disproportionate amount of my life learning how to feel comfortable in really uncomfortable situations. I pursue vigorously discomfort, I pursue stress, I pursue almost like a madman, situations that will push me to my absolute extreme, but then in the moments where I'm pursuing them, I'll pursue peace, I'll pursue presence, I'll pursue equanimity to be able to maintain as much clarity as possible in situations that most people would be losing their shit in. Yeah,
what an awesome trait to have. If you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, you can't help but grow.
Exactly, and it gives you clarity as well, because I think challenge for most people, they experience pain and then they release chaos, and that comes in the form of emotions, and we can't think straight when we have emotions running through our head.
So talk to me about, we'll move back to social media. I'm curious, it's something that I've been noticing that since I've been doing video marketing in particular on LinkedIn, I've noticed a big impact on my business, the quality of clients and certainly getting more inbound leads, but it's very difficult to measure. How do you justify, the amount that you're investing in social media without being able to measure?
That's a good question, and I come from the ROI background of direct response, where you do a campaign, you get a response, you measure how much the campaign costs you, you measure the response, you take your profit out, divide it by the amount of sales you've got, and there's your ROI per lead. Whereas with social media, it's a completely different animal. You know, it really is. It does require a long-term perspective. It's like, but it's beautiful because I think anything beautiful in life requires us to take, to take the long perspective. Because when we're looking for that instant gratification, when we're looking for that instant measurable, I think sometimes we get lost in, the actual doing of what it is that we're trying to do rather than the actual journey of what we're actually on. And this is the beautiful thing about, video marketing as an example. It does require the ability for you to build a relationship with someone. If you look at social media is actually governed by a psychological principle called the mere exposure effect. And the mere exposure effect is a psychological phenomena whereby people tend to develop a preference for things once they become familiar with them. And they don't become familiar with a product or a service or a brand anymore just by you saying, buy my stuff. You actually have to build a relationship. It's much like going to a bar. If you go to a bar, most people, if they go to a bar and they just walk up to people and ask them to go back to their room straight away, chances are you're going to get a lot of slaps in the faces. Whereas if you focus on, meeting people, approaching people, getting to know people, finding out what their interests are, finding common ground and creating, a level of relatability that builds a relationship, then over a period of time, you're going to create that natural attraction whereby people are going to want to know more. And as a result, they'll end up doing business with you. Yeah. So it's not something that you can necessarily measure in the short term. It is something that is measured on the long term. But as you said yourself, your business is by the sounds of it, it's gone gangbusters as a result of video, as has ours. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that most people don't do it is because it does take a little bit of time.
Absolutely.
And that's great.
People say to me, "Oh, why are you interviewing Kerwin? What are you trying to get? Like, what are you trying to do here? Anything I do on social media is designed to add value."
Yes.
And that's the long.
And that's the thing. And with this mere exposure effect, people, going back in 2005, you had to get about 5.4 exposures to trigger familiarity, which would be enough for someone to approach you. Now it's about 18 to 20 exposures.
Wow.
And if you're putting a call to action in front of someone like 18 to 20 times, you're going to piss them off. You're going to create negative sentiment. Whereas you've got to learn how to capture their attention, their imagination with information, education, entertainment, humour and relatability with content that draws them in to actually want to consume so that they're not only consuming the information that's relevant to the brand, but they're also building a relationship with you in the process. You're getting an exposure. And every time they watch a video, that's one more exposure. And the goal is to get to 18 to 20 and then in most cases, they're going to be ready to do some form of business with you.
I remember one episode of Social Experiment, somebody raised in your team that, my friends keep asking me what the hell we do. We should explain it. And you said, no, that's exactly what I want, kind of thing.
Yeah, I want them to be curious. Because it was so funny. You're 100% right. Like people saying, they'd say on YouTube and on Facebook, say, what do you do? And it'd be like, and I'd say the same, don't answer that question. I want curiosity. Yeah. Because it's like people love novelty. Novelty has this incredible chemical response in the brain that produces norepinephrine and dopamine. And that's that cliffhanger moment where people want to know more. And if you give people everything, all the information that they need, they're no longer curious anymore. They don't want to know anymore. And so, I love drip feeding information in a way that is curious. It is, and that's why if you look at our content, I'm a business guy, but we touch on relationships. We talk on not just business, but we talk on relationships. We talk on parenting. We talk on health, fitness. We talk on a whole range of different things because, business to me, or life to me, it's not one-dimensional. People can relate to many different aspects of you, and you just look for the angle that they can relate with the most based on the things that you're most passionate about, that you've got a depth of knowledge that, can actually add value to someone's life. And
absolutely.
You capture the market.
Cool. Kerwin, if you could be a superhero, who would you be?
Iron Man. Iron Man. Didn't have to think about that. I've got him everywhere. Even my son, he thinks he's Iron Boy. Yeah. My son actually is convinced that we are both superheroes here to save the planet. He's just turned 5.
Awesome.
Noah, I love you, pal. But yeah, he's convinced that I'm a superhero. I've convinced him that he's a superhero, and he's convinced that we're here to save the world.
I love Iron Man. Big house, fast cars.
But he's got the brains. He's got the brains, the intelligence, and the suit. And I think in many respects, I think a lot of us are like, we don't realise that we can just put on a suit to become who we want to be without being anything different from who we really are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, cool.
I think he's a great metaphor for life.
Yeah, awesome. Kerwin, I'm coming to the event tonight.
Brilliant.
Fast Growth Summit. Looking forward to seeing you in action. This is my second time I've seen the Fast Growth
Thanks,
Summit.
mate. Appreciate it.
But thanks for joining us.
Appreciate
it. And thanks for everything you're doing for the social media industry.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.